I had no idea that this story was going to go as crazy as it did with the woman that you guys see on my screen. This is the woman who abandoned her children for 5 years inside of an apartment. That apartment ended up being wrecked because you're talking about kids growing up in a place with no structure, no adult supervision, no anything. And this mother pretty much left these kids to die, which is why I believe she needs a life sentence. If they could give her more than that under penalty of law, I think that would be great. But nonetheless, we got a little bit more to update here. And thank you to those who supported that video because I don't really know what viral is. I mean, we got a decent amount of views on the story that we posted. Let's continue to try to build this and make all of these stories go viral. Every single one, every single time. Let me give a disclaimer. Let's get into this. Some viewers may find the following content offensive and controversial. The information in this video comes from multiple sources, including court records, official police charges, news web articles, and interviews. This video commentary also contains my personal opinions about the facts of this story. The point is to use this story as a cautionary tale in hopes of preventing tragedies like these to children going forward. Viewer discretion is advised. That is your official disclaimer. Now, I'm actually going to be using two websites to kind of give you guys an update. The first one is freep.com or freepress.com, Detroit Free Press, and then the other one is going to be coming from Odyssey.com, which is AUDACY, which that part we're going to be talking about trying to close the gap in this law, these loopholes that kind of, I guess, allow these situations to happen. But here at the end of the day, here's what I'm going to tell you guys, because I got a lot to talk about. First and foremost, I'm not going to blame the system. I'm not going to blame the schools. I'm not going to blame the neighbors, even though I might bring them up from time to time. And if this is your first time hearing this, if this is your first time here, please type in the chat and let people know that this is your first time here. You got to be subscribed to the channel in order to type. But I believe in accountability. I'm going to blame this on the biological mother and the biological father. I don't know what happened to them, but at the end of the day, this mother had custody. Therefore, the custodial parent, whether it be the mother or the father, more times it's the mother, ladies, y'all got to get out your feelings. And he's bashing us. He's bashing black women. I'm going to bash all parents, all bad parenting, period. There cannot be an excuse, and if you think like I'm just getting on to one group of people, then I'm going to get on to the group of people that are always in the news, that are always doing the bad things, and it don't matter how much stress, how much strife, how bad your job is, or whatever the case is. If it's your body, your choice, you have the crown and the choice, and the ball is in your court, and you only have these kids because you chose them, period. There is no excuse, and we have to stop making excuses. I don't want any apologists or anything like that. The comment section was going crazy, like I'm just really not understanding, but there's some things we're going to get correct, okay? So we good on that point, right? She's a whore, and this whore needs to be excoriated, period. Anybody have anything to say about that? This is y'all time to shine. All right, now let's go. A 34-year-old Pontiac woman was charged with 3 counts of first-degree child abuse for allegedly, no, she did abandon her children, her 3 children in 2020 and forcing them to live alone in squalor for at least 4 years. We believe it was 5 years, though, in what officials have described as an unimaginable case of abuse and neglect. So I see some ladies in the chat agree. Good, that's good. Obviously, the trauma here is significant, Oakland County Prosecutor Karen McDonald said in announcing the charges on Wednesday. We say a lot. This is the worst I've seen, and I've stopped saying that. It was unbelievable what they were living with for years. McDonald announced the charges 5 days after Oakland County Sheriff's deputies discovered the children, who at this time were ages 12, 13, and 15. That is their age. Guess what was the most thing I was asked in the video that went viral on my channel? Do y'all know what the thing is that everybody kept asking more than any other question? What were the children's ages? I literally had to comment, copy, and paste this comment dozens of times, and I got tired. And I was like, you know what? I literally went back and watched the video, and I said it within the first 1 minute and 30 seconds, and I gave the age of the kids. So if anybody missed that, again, their current age as of 2025, 12 years old, 13 years old, and 15 years old. So if you minus 5 years off of that, that would make them 10, 8, and 7. Unless my math is wrong, all you got to do is minus 5 years off of it, let alone, I don't think it even really matters. They're underage people who should not be living unattended in an apartment by themselves with no adult supervision, which is ridiculous. So just want to point that out. Living in what's described by officials as a horrifying living conditions. The toilet did not work. So for people who was wondering, did the toilet work? No, it did not work. Feces were found throughout the house. Garbage was piled as high as 4 feet in some of the rooms. And 2 of the children slept on pizza boxes. Could y'all imagine? Look at this. The mother, her name is Kelly Bryant, otherwise Kelly Marie Bryant, Kelli, Marie, Marie, Bryant, Bryant. If you guys want to look her up, again, her current age right now is 34 years old. Very easy to find her information online. A woman described by prosecutors as someone who put fear in her children. Let me say that again, because a lot of y'all are asking, well, why didn't the kids just leave, especially the oldest kid, or tell somebody or call out to somebody? Well, actually they did. I'll show y'all that video. But how many of you guys are black on my channel? How many of you guys have ever been raised by black people? Because I'm going to tell y'all something. A lot of y'all can relate to being spanked, beat, whooped, punished, disciplined, whatever you want to call it, in the black community. It kind of reminds you of slavery a little bit. Some of y'all kind of understand where I'm going with this, right? So if I got some black people who have lived through the black experience, the traditional black experience of getting your ass whooped when you do something wrong, then a lot of you guys know that that is fear controlled. That is a fear controlled environment. You could call it Stockholm Syndrome. I did notice a lot of people said that. Shout out to Ashley and Amy. Much love. I see you. And shout out also to Dippy Escapes. I see you. You could look at that as Stockholm Syndrome, where you love your abuser. So a lot of people grew up being abused. And you look at that as love. I care about you. I'm doing this so that the police won't do it to you, or people out in the world won't do it to you, right? So they beat you to try to teach you a lesson, when in all actuality, that ain't nothing but slave tactics anyway. If you can't teach people with the mind rather than with your fist and your belt and your feet and your shoes and objects, then I don't think that you're suitable mind state in order to handle being a parent, right? So this should not be anything new for black people to understand why these kids were afraid to tell anybody the position that they were in. Does everybody understand that? That is very easy to understand their level of fear when their mother instilled fear in them and probably beat them quite a bit, probably since the moment that they were born, with belts and shoes and racing car tracks, and probably beat them with pizza boxes. These children were put in fear and forced them to live in conditions not fit for any living creature, concealed all this from her family and friends, and deprived her children of the one thing they needed most, which was love. And also, she deprived these kids from having access to their biological fathers. And I say fathers plural because God only knows how many of these kids got the same father. Anyway, but that's a statistical thing. Don't get mad about that. What stands out the most to me is no love. There was nobody there to care for them, nobody physically present to let them know that they were safe and that they were loved, said McDonald, who also was seeking to have Bryant's parental rights terminated. Well, you know what we call that over here at the AFC? What do we call that? We call that hashtag TTO. What is TTO? That is take the ovaries. She should not have ovaries to be able to produce. She shouldn't even have sexual organs either. Those should be repossessed, in my opinion, even though the kids survived. They only survived by the grace of God, if y'all believe, and a higher power above. These kids were special to even survive this. Another hashtag that we have at the AFC, among many, hashtag babies for benefits. Why wouldn't she just give up custody? Why would you just abandon these kids? And why would you not give up custody to the biological fathers? Instead, you lie to the system, you lie to your family and friends, you lie to the fathers, you lie to the police, you lie to everybody, you lie to your boyfriend or whatever it is, and allow them to be abused, to be abandoned for 5 years instead of allowing them to go to a home there where somebody would take care of them and actually love them. You know why she didn't do that? Because I'm assuming we don't have the perfect paperwork on this. There has to be either something, whether it be Section 8, food stamps, child support, but there is something, some benefit that she is getting in order to abuse these kids like this and just leave them hanging. Unless she's just an evil asshole, which I wouldn't deny that either. But they want to terminate her parental rights, which I'm all for that. So anybody who's a good parent or a good mother or a good black woman or a good black person, Black Lives Matter, or anybody else shouldn't have nothing to say negative about what I'm saying right now, right? If y'all would, do me a favor and hit that thumbs up. If you agree, hit that thumbs up, share this video, please. Now, an attorney of record has not yet been listed in court documents for Bryant, who is currently in jail and faces up to life in prison if convicted, which I think she will be convicted, and she needs a life sentence. You cannot have this level of retardation in our society, dumbing down our society and our neighborhoods and our schools. People like this should not be able to procreate. People like this shouldn't be able to have sex. People like this shouldn't even exist, to be honest with you. Kid had his level of, look, let me be real with y'all. Let's get political for a second. Y'all know how all these other countries under the Biden administration was dumping all of their worst people, emptying out their prisons and sending them over here to America, which we still have way too many of them here, right? Just sending a lot of criminals over here. Well, why is it that we can't take our people that's on death row and people that's going to end up doing life in prison like this whore here, and why can't we send them over there to, where's Trinidad Aragua from, I forget what country they're from. Send her ass over there where Trinidad Aragua came from, right? Send her over there to the Sinaloa cartel. Send her over there to Russia over there with Vladimir Putin. Send her over there with Xi Jinping. Why can't we ship people like this over to other countries and just dump them? Venezuela, thank you. I'm sorry, I forgot. Who cares? Venezuela ain't shit for having all them people and sending them over here like that. That was stupid. Send her over there to Guatemala. How about that? She would do wonderful over there. Oh my God, she would do wonderful over there. She'd probably be a model citizen over there in some of them countries. Anyway, the Free Press reached out to multiple relatives of Bryant, though none have returned calls for comment. And shame on the family for not speaking out on this. Her family and friends suck. Now, according to the criminal complaint filed in the case, the abuse and neglect occurred between the date of January the 1st of 2021 for people who constantly keep typing in the comments saying, when did this start? When did this happen? I'm giving you the date, and I've gave you the ages, so I'm going to give you the date again. It started at least since January 1st of 2021 up until it was discovered February 14th of 2025. Hopefully everybody got that date, because that was something I noticed in the comment section. We had, I don't know how many comments we had. It was thousands of comments. And that was another big question. Now, McDonald elaborated on the dates and events, noting the mother actually has 4 children total. 3 was left at the house, and she dumped the other one off on one of the fathers, which means that these kids at least have multiple fathers. And last lived at the home with all of her kids in 2019. But at some point between 2020 and 2021, she said the mother left the house. A 4th child went to live with his father, while the other 3 were left behind to fend for themselves. And no, they were not enrolled in school. Thank you for calling that out. Thank you for calling that out. A custody case involving the 4th child, who was spared the other's fate, offers a glimpse into the life of the mother, who has portrayed herself in court documents as a struggling single mother, as if she didn't choose this. She chose to be in this position. No man can have sex with a woman unless that woman allows them to do so. And if he does, they call it that RAPE word, which no man is exempt from being held responsible for. Everybody understand? Think we're good on that. So this is her choice. This is all her fault. She has all 4 of these kids because she chose this. A struggling single mom. Yeah, you probably were struggling with one kid, and then you turn around and had another. 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 So did you just think the struggle was going to get better? The more kids you have, the less suffering? Like, I don't really get what the logic is there. But nonetheless, she portrayed herself as a struggling single mother who got no help from her children's fathers. Oh. Except for when you gave up custody, the father came and got the kid, which sounds like help. Interesting. In 2022 filing, Bryant, the mother, wrote to the court that times were so tough, she needed her youngest son to go live with his dad, which he ultimately did. Circumstances have changed for me, Bryant wrote in an August 2022 filing. I chose to find more affordable housing. I'm unemployed again. My rent is $1,224 a month, and I'm responsible for all utilities. I also have 3 other children. Again, that's your choice. Now, according to the filing in summer 2022, Brian told the court that she doesn't have a for sure consistent place to live or a job, and that she was in a situation where she could barely provide for myself or my children. Here's the funny thing. Even if she didn't have these 4 children, let alone these 3 that she abandoned, do y'all think that she could afford $1,300 in rent plus utilities with no job and no kids? So you see how these type of people use that as a crutch. They use that as an excuse, and they use these kids. That's another one of those benefits I'm talking about. They bring these kids into this world, and then they try to stand on the shoulders of their kids and use them. And they become martyrs. Y'all know what a martyr is? I know we got smart people in my chat. I know y'all know what it is. So how is she a victim when you're saying that without these kids, you still wouldn't have been able to take care of $1,300 in rent plus utilities because you ain't got no goddamn job? Probably selling that stinking, smelly box. Oh my God! I almost just threw up in my mouth a little bit. Oh my God. Whew. Anyway. She mentioned the father of the 3 abandoned kids. My other children's fathers, says father, but I'm pretty sure it's more than one, is working with me in regards to our children. This is only temporary. I just need to find another affordable place and employment. So he was involved. Her continued plea, please allow me time to get on my feet. I've practically raised my children alone with less than the bare minimum from their fathers. How is that when you abandon these kids for 5 years? You raised them? Is that not that, and thank y'all for correcting me on this term, is that not that entitlement? That entitlement is the word that I love to use. Doesn't that sound real entitled? somebody who didn't do shit for her kids, left them to die, abandoned them, and you're talking about who you raised? Huh? How does that make any sense? Maybe somebody in the chat can explain it. Can y'all do me a favor and please hit that thumbs up? Want to have one thumb up for everybody watching. I need somebody to explain to me, how can you do absolutely nothing and then claim credit like you did something? Just because they are alive, you raised them? I guess that's the bar when it comes to parenting. The bar is so freaking low that a caterpillar could limbo underneath the bar if it was bow-legged. The bar is so freaking low that as long as the kids aren't dead, you did your job. The mother's 2022 court filings conflicts with the timeline offered by authorities, which show that while she was pleading for help, her children had already been abandoned. So there you go. When the 3 children were finally rescued, McDonald said their bodies and clothing were covered in feces. And at the hospital, she said they struggled to brush their teeth and flush the toilet because they didn't even know how to do it because they haven't done that in years. They haven't brushed their teeth or even flushed a toilet. Isn't that crazy? Yep, I remember Gloria Williams from Houston, Texas. Of course, absolutely. Crazy story. This is one of the worst and longest running cases of child abuse I've seen in my career, Oakland County Sheriff Michael Butchert said after the charges were announced. McDonald, the mother, meanwhile, touched on a thorny issue in this case, where the children's other family members while they lived, where were the children's other family members while they lived alone? And will anybody else or will anyone else be charged in this case? While that hasn't happened, McDonald said that doesn't mean that there won't happen in the future. Morally, there is plenty of responsibility to go around for how this was allowed to even happen. However, these 3 kids were entrusted to the care of their mother, and the evidence suggests that she effectively abandoned them to a revolting pit of refuse and squalor. I think that's the word, refuse, refuse or refuse, whatever. Anyway, there must be consequences for those actions, and we all agree there. Now, according to McDonald, Bryant took the active steps of lying to make sure that the kids were undiscovered in order to keep them where they were. She instructed the kids they were not to answer the door or leave the house, McDonald said, adding that the children expressed fear about what their mother would do if they ever left that house. Put them in fear. She concealed the children from family and friends and lied about who was caring for the kids and their whereabouts, who offered more new information about the case, including this. So this is new. Listen to this. Each of the children had their own phones. I'm assuming smartphones because you can get them for relatively cheap. The 15-year-old son would text his... Think about this. I just thought about something. How crazy is this idea that these kids didn't even know how to brush their teeth, nor did they know how to flush a toilet, but they knew how to use a smartphone? That's a mic drop moment right there. They could text their mother from a smartphone, assuming it was a smartphone. They knew how to communicate with her and her alone. But they didn't know how to flush a toilet or put toothpaste on a toothbrush and brush their teeth. But she raised her kids though, huh? Okay. Each of the kids had their own phones, plural. The 15-year-old son would text his mother when food supplies ran low. The three siblings had not had any physical contact with their mother since she abandoned them years ago. Food was not always being dropped off weekly, as previously reported by law enforcement. So that's another lie. And the kids had no hygiene products. Let me say that again. You said that they bathe? Hell no, they didn't bathe. Did y'all see that tub? Let's go back. Let's take a look at the tub. I know it's nasty, but we need to understand what's really cracking here. That's the tub on my screen. What bathing do y'all think they did? Man, it literally looks like they were using the bathroom in the tub. That was probably what they were doing. That was their new toilet for 5 years. That's insane. So no, they did not have hygiene products during the years that they were left alone, as the mom did not provide toilet paper, soap, or shampoo. According to McDonald and the sheriff's office, the two youngest siblings, both who are girls, never left the house in almost 5 years, and then the 15-year-old brother only left a few times. One of those reasons was to check the mail. They used the tub as a toilet. Yes, you heard that right. One of the times the oldest boy left the house to go check the mail. The other time was because he wanted to touch the grass on the ground to see what the grass felt like. Guys, if that doesn't break your heart, I don't know what in this world ever would. But let's keep going, because there's more. There's a lot more. The children's father was not involved in their lives, as he had been in prison in the prior years. So she had babies by a jailbird, a thug by way of his actions. The children's father had been in prison, though he did try to reconnect with the kids and give visitation rights following his prison release. But as of 2022, his wife would not let him, and by then the children were already living alone in a condo in the otherwise quaint community of Lydia Lane. So here's the thing. With him being a jailbird and him being married, and I want y'all to think about this. Y'all notice whenever a man gets out of prison, how there is no shortage of pussy. There is no shortage of places he can live. But there is a whole lot of other rules. He can't be a father to his kids that he created before he went to jail, before he went to prison. And in this case, it makes it even worse that they were living there by themselves. And on top of that, I think that's crazy, the fact that men who have done prison time can get out and there's always some woman there waiting on them. No matter who they've murdered, who they've stolen from, or whose lives they've interrupted. You do all of that, but you won't let him be a father. And on top of that, he probably didn't have much of a choice, because if he tries to go be a father in spite of his wife, then she's probably going to kick him out of the only place that he could probably live rent free, or whatever their situation is. But anyway, let's keep going. Now, according to the sheriff's office, the children were discovered on Friday after the landlord reached out and told deputies that there had been no communication with the mother since December, and the rent had not been paid since October. So the landlord got concerned that something may be wrong and contacted authorities. On Friday, the sheriff's deputies and the landlord went to the home and found the children, who had matted hair, and the toenails on their feet were so long that they struggled to walk correctly. The mother was arrested the same day and is currently in the Oakland County Jail. The children have been placed with a family member, which sounds weird as shit in itself, because where the fuck were these family members this whole damn time? Can I blame them? These ain't their kids. No, I can't blame them, but I just refuse to believe that nobody knew anything. But they were placed with a family member following intervention from the Child Protective Services. Now, according to Bouchard, the children had no schooling since they were abandoned between spring and summer of 2020 during the height of the COVID-19 pandemic. At a news conference Tuesday, Bouchard sought to explain how the children fell off from the school radar, noting that the Pontiac School District did receive a request for the students' transcripts from another school, but the district never got confirmation that the children ever enrolled in another school. And after the children did not show up for school, the Pontiac district dropped them from enrollment without anyone knowing where the children ended up. So maybe you could blame that on the school too. The Pontiac School District was not available for comment on Tuesday. The Michigan Department of Health and Human Services declined to answer whether any complaints were ever filed with CPS about the children, citing privacy concerns in the agency policy not to comment on juvenile matters. McDonald urges anyone who suspects or has information about child abuse to call CPS hotline 855-444-3391. And I just really wish that CPS had more transparency with the police and the general public. But nonetheless, they suck. Let's get up into these news videos.
Federal law allows citizens to reproduce, distribute, or exhibit portions of copyrighted motion pictures, videotapes, or video discs under certain circumstances without the authorization of the copyright holder. This is called fair use. It is allowed for purposes of criticism, news reporting, teaching, and parody, which doesn't infringe of copyright under 17 U.S.C. 107.
For those who listen to the sound of my voice, if y'all would do me a favor and please click that thumbs up. We need one thumb up for everybody watching. Please continue to do that. Please leave a comment. If you cannot comment, all you got to do is subscribe to the channel. It'll allow you to comment, okay? Now, let me give a shout out real quick. We got a couple people who donated. I will post the link in there for you guys if y'all want to show some love for somebody who actually helps kids. If y'all want to show some love for somebody who helps kids, y'all can donate to the AFC Podcast. The AFC Podcast $, that is Cash App and PayPal. If y'all want to show some love, we ask for everybody to take the $1 challenge or even just hit that thumbs up. Share this in your favorite true crime groups, please. Last few people that donated was Crystal W., Ellen D., and Sheree Oliver, Amanda, Tanea, Reeves 3002, Ash and Emmy, Cherie. Those are the last people in PayPal, and to Marie Kennedy, who was in the chat in PayPal. So if y'all want to show some love, hit that up, and I will make sure and shout you guys out as soon as we see it. Let's take a look at this. We're getting ready to listen to what the judge had to say. I did fix this audio, so I brought it up, so it should be loud enough. Y'all should be able to hear this. We'll listen to what the judge says. We're going to listen to this all the way through. Please hit that thumbs up. Here we go.
All right, back on the record with the Kelly Bryant matter. For the record, Ms. Carragano, you've had an opportunity to go into a private confidential breakout room to confer with your client regarding the charges in this matter. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor, I did.
And are you waiving the reading of the general information and complaint this morning?
Yes, Your Honor, waive reading, stand mute, ask the judge to not guilty plea on her behalf. I did advise her of the nature of the offenses, the maximum possible penalties, as well as gave her basic constitutional rights.
All right, this matter is hereby assigned to Honorable Judge Cynthia Walker. She will be back before her on for a probable cause conference March 4th, 2025, for a probable cause conference with an exam date set for March 11th, 2025. Ms. Bryant, that exam date is a tentative date depending upon everyone's schedule, but by the court rule we have to set a date to keep it going. That will be at 9 o'clock. The PCC, the probable cause conference, is at 1:30. Of course, if you're unable to retain an attorney, and a court-appointed attorney will be provided for you to help you navigate and to communicate before Judge Walker on your next court date in this matter. Pretrial services relative to bond, but for the record, Ms. Carragano, are you in receipt of the pretrial services report bail recommendation in this matter?
Your Honor, and I did discuss it with my client.
Okay, all right.
I am, yes.
Okay, and have you read and reviewed that?
I did do that in the breakout room, Your Honor. Sorry, there's a lot of feedback, I think, from the jail screen. I think that's our problem. Right
Yeah,
now.
our problem is
But
from the
yes,
jail
I did review
screen.
it, and I talked to her.
Okay, all right. So they're recommending release with conditions in this matter, so we're going to go from there. We have the PCC date. I'm going to have you speak to bond, and then I'll make my decision as to bond, and I'll also have the prosecution speak to bond. Ms. Karagongo, you're asking the court to accept the recommendation as provided by pretrial services.
I am, Your Honor. MCR 6.106, if you go through those conditions, provide that a personal recognizance bond with any conditions should be provided unless Ms. Bryant fell under some of the very specified exceptions to a personal bond that are listed. The court can also provide a cash bond if the court finds that Ms. Bryant is either a risk to the community or a flight risk. This particular case is serious, and we're not denying that it's a very serious case. However, I don't believe that the facts and circumstances of the case give any indication that Ms. Bryant is a risk to the community at large. In addition to that, there is no indication that Ms. Bryant is a flight risk. She's a lifelong resident of the county. She was residing within the city limits of this community. She, was employed, and she has ties to the community. In speaking to her, she also is asking that the court consider a tether, which could be part of a bond if the people had any concerns that she posed a flight risk. I do think, the recommendation from pretrial services is in line with the Michigan court rules, understanding that it is a very serious offense. But the court rules are what they are, and they do provide that Ms. Bryant should be released on a personal bond with conditions, so that's what I'm asking the court to do.
Ms. Green, would you like to address the court regarding bond in this matter?
Thank you, Your Honor. I did have the opportunity to look at the pretrial services report. I know, Your Honor, just where to facts yesterday, and that those are fresh in your
One
memory,
moment, please.
so
I'm going to mute the jail. Camera, and go ahead, Ms. Green.
Thank you. I did have the opportunity to review the pretrial services report. I know that Your Honor just listened to the swear to facts yesterday, and I'm sure that those are fresh in your memory. I am requesting in this case, I do agree with Ms. Kirandango regarding MCR 6.106 to the extent that you may not deny bond, but this court has the authority to put in place a high cash bond with conditions, and I believe that it appears that Ms. Bryant is not employed and that her resident status may be transient, so I consider her, and I think that the facts of this case portray her as a potential flight risk, and that there are 3 victims in this case that she should absolutely be prohibited from having contact with. So I'd ask that the court add a specific no contact provision as it relates to the 3 minor victims in this case. And if the court would like me to go on, I can.
No. What I found very suspicious in the report from pretrial services, there's 2 different addresses given to her. So I agree with you, Ms. Green, that one could opine that she's transient. She's from here, she's from there. We don't know where she resides. I do find her an acute risk and danger to the community and to any minor children under the age of 18, let alone the 3 minor children that she is a mother to. With that in mind, I agree with Ms. Karagongo. I cannot deny her bond. That is, of course, my first knee-jerk reaction was to deny her bond. However, because I find her acute danger, I find her a continued danger to the children. My main concern is, I don't know who, if anyone, that the children have been given to. If it is a family member, I'm concerned that she still may have contact with the family member from the jail with instructions to continue to engage in fear tactics to forbid the children from cooperating with authorities in their continued investigation in this matter. For that reason alone, I'm giving her a $250 million bond in this matter, cash only, The other aspects, should she post said bond, she is not to have any contact with these children by family members, third-party agents, or friends. So, Ms. Bryant, I want you to understand, any phone calls from the jail, should you're unable to post this bond, is recorded. Should the court find out that you are sending messages to engage in further fear tactics and intimidation of the children, your phone privileges will be removed. You're not to have, in fact, any contact should you post this bond with any children under the age of 18. In this matter, if you post this bond, you should be supervised by pretrial services, no alcohol or drugs, no weapons or firearms, and a GPS tether with a very...
Now, granted, all of this potential release stuff, that's a $250 million cash-only bond. The judge actually was going to say no bond at all, but she said, I have to grant a bond. So she said, you know what? I'm going to make this bond higher than giraffe pussy. So she gave her a $250 million bond. I don't even think Puff Daddy's bond is that high, is it? Matter, you know, he didn't even get a bond. Never mind. He didn't even get a damn bond. But that's like on that level. That's pretty up there.
Verified address, because I'm concerned pretrial services has indicated 2 different reported addresses for you. I don't believe anyone knows where you have been staying, madam. There's no consistent history. Anything further regarding the bond, Ms. Caragongo, Ms. Green?
Just ever so briefly, they had no issues finding my client to arrest her. So I just want the record to be clear on that.
Ms. Green?
Your Honor, you have before you information that the defendant has been lying about her whereabouts, the whereabouts regarding what she was telling where the children were. So you have a lot on this record in terms of...
So, I know y'all know exactly where she was living at. Y'all know. I need somebody to type it in the chat. If y'all can, we got a few people in the building. Can y'all do me a favor? Hit that thumbs up. We need about 600 to 800,000 people watching right now, okay? So please hit that thumbs up. The more y'all hit it, the more people will show up. Y'all know who she was staying with, right? And somebody type it in the chat, please. This is a live chat. I'm waiting on somebody to type it. She's been staying where the D is. The D-I-C-K. Y'all know it. She don't want her man. She wants to still have a connection. So here's what I would do. I'm going to tell it on her. I'm about to tell it. So I want y'all to monitor her phone calls and pay attention to who she's calling. Track those numbers down and go to that house and go arrest anybody that she calls, because those are the people that she's been using to perpetuate this foul abuse on these kids. Arrest anybody that she calls. She's probably only knows a couple of phone numbers. Y'all know when y'all go to jail and go to prison, it's only a couple phone numbers you remember by heart. Hashtag hood hoes love hood dick. Thank you for my hashtag right there. Thank you for that. Y'all know she was staying with her boyfriend. Why she act like she don't know who she was staying with and she's not going to give up the information? Well, that's why, because that's her only advocate left. He probably knew this was going on and didn't give a damn. What's up, Larry? Thank you. Exactly, bro. Track her phone calls, every one of her phone calls. Find out who the dude is. Track that down. Those are your breadcrumbs.
Inconsistencies with her location and the information that she's given to put in place this high cash bond.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for your cooperation in this matter. Ms. Bryant, you are thanked and excused from the camera. Ms. Caragongo, Ms. Green, thank you so much. Pretrial service, thank you so much. Ma'am, can you get up and let the deputies know we're ready for the next defendant? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. If you guys want to come and get your microphones, you're welcome to do so before the next prisoner arrives.
But we begin tonight with questions still swirling regarding 3 children that investigators say were abandoned for years inside a Pontiac home. Where was the mom living that whole time? Welcome to 7 News Detroit at 6. I'm Carolyn Clifford.
And I'm Mike Duffy. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, Kelly Bryant is facing federal charges of child abuse after investigators discovered her children living in filth and squalor for years. And today, our team found out where Bryant may have been living.
And that's not all. 7 News Detroit reporter Sarah Michaels is also listening to the children's grandparents tonight and a neighbor who says he actually had interactions with the kids before.
Up until this point, many of us believed that the 3 children living in this home had no contact with anyone except for their mother for nearly 5 years. Well, today we learned that at least a handful of times they did call out to a neighbor. Was it just that one time?
Maybe 2 or 3 times.
A father himself, Jamar Johnson, tells me he felt the need to share that he heard the 3 kids abandoned in squalor in this Pontiac home. For 6 months, he has lived 2 doors down, and occasionally they yelled out their window to him.
Just, they say, hey, nice car. But, and I might wave back at them, but that's it. There's no way that I could have known that they were in a terrible situation.
Johnson says how could he know that the room the children were calling from was stacked 4 feet high? Occasionally, they yelled out their window to him.
Just, they say, hey, nice car. But, and I might wave back at them, but that's it. There's no way that I could have known that they were in a terrible situation.
Johnson said.
So this is actually a pretty significant update in this story. So remember, even I asked this and I said, how did nobody not know anything at all? And the fact, and it makes me wonder if these kids are maybe trying to speak to other people going out the window. If that window was open, yeah, see, I thought about that too. So if they opened that window, the smell would have had to got out. I thought about that. Also, they called out to this man, but apparently they didn't seem like they were in distress. So he was just like, hey, how y'all doing? And just kept it pushing. So like, I guess in a perfect world, maybe you wish he would have maybe been a little more proactive, but he probably didn't know. But if they did this with this random guy, it makes me believe that they probably did this with other people too. Maybe they were just ignored. I don't know. I don't know that for a fact. So before anybody wants to get onto his case, just know that he's saying he didn't know. He probably didn't know.
How could he know that the room the children were calling from was stacked 4 feet high with mold, feces, and trash? He says he never saw them outside, but he saw their mother, 34-year-old Kelly Marie Bryant.
She would be outside for hours and hours with a friend.
Johnson says Bryant was always in a car with a friend. He never saw her go inside, and he wonders, who was that friend? Did they know who Bryant was hiding?
She's from here, she's from there, we don't know where.
So here's the thing that I want you guys to remember. I want y'all to treat this as if it was in your own neighborhood. And you probably have seen people or kids sitting outside of windows or something like that, or might yell out and say something, just some random kids in some neighborhood or whatever the case is, and you're just driving by. I mean, would you think to go knock on the door or call Child Protective Services? I mean, he didn't really have much to go on. It's not like you could see on the inside. And you're talking about looking from a distance. So just think about that before we go too far off the deep end as far as him seeing them but didn't know that they were in distress, okay? Just want to throw that out there. Because otherwise, I would have lit his ass up too. Pause. I would have lit him up too. I definitely would have got onto his case about that if I felt like he neglected or did something wrong.
Where she resides.
So many have been wondering where Bryant herself lived while her children sat in isolation. Court documents show 2 addresses. At one of them, I talked to a woman who confirmed Bryant was living here. Were you guys living together? The house is about 6 minutes away from where Bryant's children were. The woman behind the door telling me that Bryant always told them the kids were with their dad, in isolation, who confirmed Bryant was living here. One of them, I talked to a woman who confirmed Bryant was living here.
So, maybe that's not a boyfriend. This is at least one of the houses, and they confirmed that she was living here. If you ask me, that is highly suspicious that this person didn't know anything. I think they should be investigated, maybe even arrested. That's impossible that you didn't know anything. So they go to the house. This is an investigative journalist. Why aren't the police doing this? Why aren't the prosecutors doing this? It's always us, the investigative journalists, and they always try to limit us as far as the information that we know, because they know that we want answers and we want real answers, and we're not going to sit there and wait no 2-3 years to get a fucking answer. This is the house that this broad was staying at, and you mean to tell me that they not going to go investigate, do a welfare check, go arrest them, go find out maybe some kids are abandoned over there, maybe they got some type of crazy mess going on over here at this house. So if this woman was associated with this house, then guess what? That should automatically get them a search warrant signed by the judge to search this house for additional evidence. Doesn't that sound correct?
Were you guys living together? The house is about 6 minutes away from where Bryant's children were. The woman behind the door telling me that Bryant always told them the kids were with their dad, and Bryant actually played with other people's kids. The 3 children, ages 15, 13, and 12, are currently staying with their maternal grandpa. Over the phone, their paternal grandpa, Samuel White, tells me he and the kids' father have been trying to see the kids for years.
But it just hurt because it's not the fact that she had to take them through that. Why would she do that and that wasn't the situation?
White and the kids' father have been trying to see the kids for years.
But it just hurt because it's not the fact that she had to take them through that. Why would she do that and that wasn't the situation?
White says that he personally asked Bryant to bring the kids around. The answer was always no, begging the final question, and perhaps the biggest question: why would she do this?
How are you guys coping with that?
I mean, it's sickening because it was like we wasn't running from the situation. We always asked about them. They doing all right, but it's a lot of scar there. It's a lot of scars.
Bryant will be back in court March 4th for a probable cause conference.
At 5, we brought you new information about the kids rescued from horrible conditions. The Oakland County Sheriff saying those children stayed inside a Pontiac home for years, except for one of them who went outside twice because he said he wanted to feel the grass. Well, tonight we're also learning how the community has been responding to this situation. Victor Williams is live with a look at how a lot of people have stepped in to help this family. Victor?
Hey there, Kimberly. A lot of people have stepped up indeed. What you're seeing is really just a fraction of what's been donated, and it's only the beginning.
We put on there that we needed clothing, and this is just a tiny sample of what we've received.
Sheriff Mike Bouchard on the help that's being given to the kids rescued from deplorable conditions in Pontiac. Our cameras rolling as more and more people donated clothes, personal hygiene items, and even more.
I'm a grandma, and I have grandchildren that age, and my heart goes out to those children. It's just so sad. I hope that they're going to be okay.
I will say we have one of the most generous communities, I think, in the world.
Sheriff Bouchard says so many people have donated that there's no longer a need for clothes. The focus is now shifting to financial support.
In a very short period of time, I think we've already got $15,000 to $20,000 in on our donations.
An Oakland County fundraiser is underway where 100% of the proceeds will go straight to the kids, but Sheriff Bouchard wants to do.
Somebody in the chat said, what did they eat? Here's the crazy thing about it. Do you know that one of the last things that they ate before they was discovered, the last week before they were discovered, their mom stopped actually delivering real actual food, and she dropped them off a loaf of bread. And I bullshit you not. That was one of the last things that she donated. I said donated. One of the last things that she sent. But I guess she must have considered it a donation. One of the last things that she sent that last week before they were discovered was they had to make it through a week an entire week on one loaf of bread. I'm not sure who the what do you call that service that delivers food? Not DoorDash, Uber Eats, or whatever these other services are. Would you not question if somebody wanted you to deliver one loaf of bread in a week? If it were me driving for DoorDash or Uber Eats, and on top of that, don't you think out of all the deliveries that they got, which had to have been weekly, that somebody had Postmates? Somebody had to have smelt something seriously, and you didn't call and say, hey, this place smells like somebody's dead in there. Maybe y'all might want to go do a wellness check. Think about this. Every time that food was dropped off, they take a picture, maybe walk off. But at least one thing that you know, that every time food was delivered, you normally should ring the doorbell at least once. I don't know if that's their policy to do it, but every time it was only the kids there. There was nobody else answering the door, let alone even if they answered it. The only people that was there were the kids for 5 years. You didn't call on the smell. You didn't call on the fact that maybe one of the kids might have answered the door every time, all day, every day. Nothing. They were yelling out of windows. One of them walked outside to go touch grass, going to go check the mail. Nobody noticed nothing. Stuff is always going in, but never coming out. Thank you. You said nobody noticed that there was no garbage ever going out from that apartment. You can't just always have stuff going in and it not going out. Not have something going out.
More.
We're looking for a mechanism where we can hand this off. So if there's a firm out there that would like to set up a trust fund for these kids, then we'll deposit any receipts that we have. That will make up for the 3-4 years that they've been subjected to these conditions.
Now these kids are receiving around-the-clock care. Mom, however, is still behind bars as we await those charges. But if you're watching and you do want to donate to that fundraiser, we have all of that information on our website. Click on Detroit.com. Victor Williams, Local 4.
Okay, Victor, thank you.
And that's so sad how, when it was almost too late and everybody wants to jump in now. But, I appreciate the fact that people did when they found out. The good people jumped into action and tried to take care of these kids, whether it be clothing, food, financially. That's awesome, but it should never have to get to this point. But again, I think that she deserves a life sentence. What do y'all think? It makes you wonder, what did they drink? Juicy juice, Kool-Aid, Hawaiian punch? Because I'm pretty damn sure they didn't have no running water. I don't know. Somebody in the chat says she deserves life without parole on attempted murder. This was attempted murder, in my opinion. That was what this was. They're probably not going to be able to get a conviction for attempted murder, but they should be able to get a conviction for a life sentence with no possibility for parole. The only reason that these kids survived and lived was just by the grace of the man above. That's it. Nobody was meant to survive this. So again, for everybody who was wondering, and everybody in the comments section of the other video who was asking, what are the ages of the kids? I said it at the beginning and I will say it at the end. They were 15, 13, and 12 5 years prior. That would make them 10, 8, and 7, respectively. That was their ages. So thank you guys so much for making this original story go viral. We will post this. Let's make these stories all go viral. Let's continue to like, share, and subscribe to all of these videos. And let's continue to grow the AFC Advocates for Children. And let's get justice against people like this, okay? Thank you. All right, are y'all ready to go to story number 2? I think that was a pretty damn good update. A little bit of new information in there, and maybe this is completely brand new to some of y'all who might not have seen this story at all. Let me try to clear these pictures off my screen. Thank you. We have another donation that just came in from Nazaria, and I hope I said your name correctly. Joaquin, if you're listening, thank you very much. Said, love the AFC. I love you right back. Thank you so much for donating, and anybody else who donated in Cash App, which we do. We have a couple more, and I'm going to shout you guys out right now. So if you want to donate, it is $, the AFC podcast. But the link is in the description box and is pinned at the top of the chat. All you got to do is find the message for Mrs. Alicia F. Baby. So Laquita was the last one that donated, and Crystal, Ellen, Sheree, Amanda, Tanea, Reese 3002, Ash and Emmy, Sheree. Those were the last ones that came in. If y'all want to donate and show some love, you know how to do it. Y'all ready for story number 2 out of 5? We're going to keep this short tonight, and we're going to let y'all get back to your evening. Thank you, Tanea. Appreciate that. And if there's something that I missed, y'all type in the comment section, because when I stop and before I start the next story, I should be able to see what you guys are typing. So I don't want you guys to think that I'm ignoring what y'all are saying. If y'all have not let me know where you guys are watching from, please type it in the chat and represent where y'all are from. Said they had to drink something because you cannot live without fluid. Maybe they had tap water. It is hard to know. I hope that comes out in the court proceedings. That's what I'm hoping. So shout out, Veronica. I feel you on that. Becky Lynn says she needs 3 life sentences. I agree. Triple life. I agree. And glitter is forever. I agree with you on that. I like the video you showed the other day of the cleanup crew that they end up pulling out the tub. You know what? I don't know, because I don't know if they pulled out the tub. I don't know if they removed the stove, because that stove was trash too. Now that tub, realistically, they probably didn't, because that would take a lot of money to replace that whole entire tub and bathroom. Key West, Florida, Houston, Texas, Nevada, Missouri, Illinois, Bronx, New York, Alabama, Arizona, DFW, you already know. Fresno, California, New Mexico, Orlando. Where you guys watching from? Newport, Washington. I see you. Y'all ready for story number 2? I did these stories a little bit out of order because I thought that first story was the most important one. But I have one that's even crazier than this one. But we're going to talk about this too, though. Oh, I forgot to read this other part. Hold on, let me go back. Can I go back for a second? I want to add this because I did forget this part. Y'all give me a second. I forgot to talk about this part. They were trying to change a law. Let me bring this up real quick. I almost forgot to talk about this from the website Odyssey, audacy.com, because there's a close the gap law that I think they're trying to fix with this story. So Lansing lawmakers could introduce legislation as soon as next week that would close the gap when students move from one school to another, ensuring that the student does not fall through the cracks like all of these kids did with this crappy ass mother. Now, the Oakland County Sheriff's Office said in a press release Tuesday that the Oakland County lawmakers from both chambers of the state legislature are planning to introduce a bill to amend the school code to tighten the procedure for enrolling and unenrolling a student who moves from one school to another. So that's a good thing. The proposed legislation comes a week after a Pontiac mother was charged with 3 counts of first-degree child abuse for abandoning her children, leaving them to live in absolute squalor for almost 5 years. Butcher says that one school in Pontiac requested the transcripts of the children from the school they were at previously, where they were current students. They never actually moved to a new school, and neither school had them enrolled. And the school where they were previously enrolled had dropped them from the rolls, presuming they had moved, according to the sheriff. So let's see here. So I wanted to bring that up and just add that in there because they are trying to fix that. It's a little bit of a loophole that would maybe just tighten up these situations, just make it a little bit harder for whores. I mean, wonderful mothers like this to not allow these kids to fall through the cracks. So maybe they can fix these type of situations a little bit better, okay? But I'm all for that. Whatever we can do to make it better. Now, let's go to story number 2. We have Morocco. Where is Morocco at? FES Morocco. Where is that? We have Quebec, Canada in the building. We got Canada. Shout out to Canada. Oh, Canada. Shout out to the 51st state of the United States. Shout out to Quebec, Canada. Shout out to Canada. No, shout out to Quebec, though, in the building. All jokes aside. I don't know if y'all actually take offense to that. I don't want to make you mad, so don't get mad. I was just joking. I'm just joking. I'm not being serious. Just joking. I have two people to take care of. My mother has dementia. My brother is handicapped. I watch them when I'm doing my job. Got you, Teresa Garcia. Do your thing. Do your thing. Oh, you really are in Northwest Africa? RS, shout out to you. I don't think you would just make that up out of nowhere. Are you really in Africa? If you are, that is really cool. We don't get a lot of people saying that they're from Africa watching in the chat. That's actually pretty cool. Do people actually know why you marry someone before you start a family with them and bring back tact and morals? Modesha TV. You know what? You're asking a very, very vital question. And I look, I do not blame you for asking. I do not blame you. All right, let's go to story number 2. Let's get it in. Y'all hit that thumbs up. Let's talk about this. Oh, right here. Okay. So Brandon Steckler. I'm going to have trouble pronouncing that name. So here we go. One thing that I noticed with a lot of these situations is that these kids end up being abandoned by their parents in some shape, form, or fashion, and they end up in the hands of somebody else. These people that they end up in the hands of end up abusing these kids. So here's my thing. Even though this is a failure on the person that was supposed to be caring for this kid, huge failure, that cannot be excused. But I'm a firm believer that these kids should not end up in these situations because of what the biological mother and biological fathers end up allowing these children to fall through their parenting hands into somebody else who did not give a damn about these kids. That's my take on this story. Let me give you guys the fair usage and then we'll get into the details and tell you a bit about that kid. Some viewers may find the following content offensive and controversial. The information in this video comes from multiple sources, including court records, official police charges, news web articles, and interviews. This video commentary also contains my personal opinions about the facts of this story. The point is to use this story as a cautionary tale in hopes of preventing tragedies like these to children going forward. Viewer discretion is advised. That is your official disclaimer. So I'm actually using Yahoo, so shout out to Yahoo. We don't talk about Yahoo enough. But yahoo.com, this is coming out of Las Vegas. A Las Vegas woman, the woman that you guys just saw on the screen, pled guilty to killing a boy in one of the worst child abuse cases in the state of Nevada, and we have done some bad stories out of there. Crystal Stevens, who's 48 years old. Let me get her face back up on the screen. Beautiful little kid. This is Crystal Stevens, 48 years old. This stupid broad here pled guilty to first-degree murder, which would mean that is premeditated. First-degree kidnapping resulting in substantial bodily harm and child abuse, according to a plea agreement obtained by 8 News Now investigations. Stephen agreed to a sentence of life in prison without the possibility of parole, and she will no longer face the death penalty for what she did. Let me warn you guys. Let me give a disclaimer. The following content may contain material or information that may be harmful or traumatizing to some audiences. Viewer discretion is advised, because I'm going to give y'all some details about what she did to this kid. Just know that some of it was sexual in nature, okay? Some of it was sexual. Stevens killed 4-year-old Brandon Steckler in 2018. The child had numerous bruises and burn marks all over his body. Let me take a pause real quick. I didn't get all of the old pictures out of there. Let me try to fix this real quick. Hold on. Some of those pictures should not be in there. So let me remove one of them. There we go. Okay. Let's continue. This boy had numerous bruises and burns to his body and 27 rib fractures. Keep in mind, he's 4 years old. He's a little tiny baby. According to Clark County prosecutors, Brandon Steckler, the 4-year-old boy, has suffered from malnutrition, sepsis, and pneumonia, and had a methamphetamine in his system. He had meth in his system. So this woman is a meth billy. She's a meth head. The autopsy took an extended length of time due to the extensive injuries. A medical examiner testified that pretty much every inch of Brandon Steckler's body had some type of injury. This baby is 4 and was 4 years old. And that's according to grand jury transcripts. Stevens had called 911 claiming that Brandon Steckler had drowned. Let me guess. What y'all think? Y'all think she said he drowned in a bathtub on his own? He slipped and fell in a bathtub? Not another bathtub story. Please, not another bathtub story. A couple weeks prior, Steckler's mother had asked Stevens to care for Steckler while she was in a shelter, according to an arrest report. The biological mother, said Stevens refused to return the child. That's the mother. That's the biological mother from my understanding. That's the picture that I found. So if it's wrong, I'll blur it out, but I think that's the biological mother. Steckler's loved ones told the news that he had autism and his nickname was Tuku, Tuku, which is an abbreviation of Too Cool, which is Toocool or Tookool, whatever, Too Cool. A grand jury indicted Stevens for 27 charges, including murder and sexual assault. The reason, even though this story is an older story, we're talking about this now because it's taken this long to finally start to get some justice, to finally get a sentence. Do y'all see how long this takes? Almost 6 years. It's taken this long. Let me repeat that again. Murder and sexual assault. That will make her a pedophile. A MFing pedophile. The remaining charges were dropped as a result of the plea deal. The news were previously learned that there were warning signs about both Steckler's well-being and Stevens. According to state child welfare report, Child Protective Services had been contacted 5 times about Steckler and or his family. The report stated that CPS investigated once and found allegations to be unsubstantiated. But you got a dead kid. and a kid that was sexually assaulted, but it's not substantiated. The report also stated that CPS was contacted 4 times about Stevens. 2 investigators took place, and allegations were found to be unsubstantiated. The news had repeatedly asked Stevens for an interview, and she declined. I really don't know what's the freaking purpose of CPS with these type of situations. If you go and investigate and you don't check, you don't do your due diligence, and then you say it's unsubstantiated, then you look up and you have a dead kid. There was clearly a reason for the call. Somebody saw something and said something, reported it. It was your goddamn job to go investigate, and you didn't, and you failed yet again. Ultimately, is the failure on CPS? If you ask me, I say no. I say the failure is still on the biological mother for ending up in this situation, and I blame it on the biological father for not being attached to his child. It ended up in the hands of a pedophile. How about that? You got friends that are pedophile. Friends. How many of us have them? Friends. Ones you can depend on. Friends. Ain't that some shit?
Federal law allows citizens to reproduce, distribute, or exhibit portions of copyrighted motion pictures, videotapes, or video discs under certain circumstances without the authorization of the copyright holder. This is called fair use. It is allowed for purposes of criticism, news reporting, teaching, and parody, which doesn't infringe of copyright under 17 U.S.C. 107.
It's a strange thing, man. With friends like this, who in the world needs enemies? If y'all are watching this, do me a favor and make this story go viral. Share the hell out of this story and make this go viral. Hit that thumbs up and leave a comment. Here we go. Let's get it.
A prosecutor is calling an alleged child murder case one of the worst she has seen in 10 years.
The I-Team first broke this story Tuesday, and today the woman facing a murder charge in connection with the death of a 4-year-old boy appeared in court. Thanks for joining us tonight at 6. I'm Christiane Klein.
And I'm Denise Valdez. The I-Team's Vanessa Murphy is here with more about that victim tonight.
Yeah, and family members are obviously just heartbroken. They tell me the 4-year-old boy's name is Brandon Steckler Jr., and he was autistic. His nickname was Tuku for King Too Cool. This evening, there are still many questions surrounding his death and what is now a murder case. Here are photos of 4-year-old Brandon. The child's father tells me he doesn't know the suspect, 42-year-old Crystal Stevens, nor why she was with the child. He also tells me he and the child's mother are estranged. The father describes Brandon as a kindred soul with love and innocence who touched everyone he came in contact with. A family friend read a statement for us on the father's behalf because he's just so distraught, and she talked with us. The group of veterans who are friends with the father is asking for prayers of support and for anyone with information to come forward.
Justice needs to be served here, and little Brandon and Tuku's name, he didn't die in vain. I won't let that, this is terrible. I won't ever let that little boy's name be forgotten.
42-year-old Crystal Stevens remains in the Clark County Detention Center without bail. Metro Police says it received a call Monday morning about a child drowning at an apartment on East Silverado Ranch near Bermuda, but when they showed up, they found no signs of drowning at all. Brandon was taken to the hospital, though, because of his serious injuries. Stevens, seen in court here this morning, was arrested for child abuse, but shortly after, Brandon passed away, and Stevens now faces a murder charge.
The autopsy in this case took almost 8 hours due to the horrific injuries to this child. In the 10 years I've been doing child cases, this is probably one of the worst I've ever seen.
To help put that into perspective, an autopsy usually takes from 2 to 4 hours, not 8 hours. Now, family friends are now trying to raise money to bury the child. We'll have more information on our website at Las Vegas.
She was supposed to be babysitting a child, but today she admits to killing him. Thanks for joining us at 5. I'm Denise Valdez.
And I'm Brian Loftus. This is one of the worst cases of child abuse our state has ever seen, and it's one 8 News Now investigator Vanessa Murphy has been closely following. Here she is with the latest, and we do want to warn you first. This story is of a very sensitive nature.
Crystal Stevens admits to killing 4-year-old Brandon Steckler. This is part of a plea deal. What this means, she will spend the rest of her life in prison, but she no longer faces the death penalty.
I won't ever let that little boy's name be forgotten.
Brandon Steckler Jr. was just 4 years old when Crystal Stevens tortured and murdered him in 2018.
Justice needs to be served here.
This was a friend of the child's father speaking with us, while he said he was too heartbroken for words. Loved ones told us Brandon had autism. They called him Tuku, nickname for Too Cool. As we uncovered more details about this case, we learned more about the horror Brandon experienced at the hands of Stevens.
In the 10 years I've been doing child cases, this is probably one of the worst I've ever seen.
Jacqueline Bluth, now a judge, was prosecuting the case after Metro Police arrested Stevens. Detectives said she was supposed to be caring for Brandon after his mother, who was in a shelter, asked her to. The mom said Stevens then refused to return Brandon. A couple of weeks later, Stevens called 911 from the Silverado Ranch apartment, claiming Brandon drowned, which was a lie. Authorities discovered excessive burning and bruising to Brandon's body and 27 rib fractures. They say he also had methamphetamine in his system, injuries consistent with sexual assault, and he was suffering from malnutrition, pneumonia, and sepsis. A grand jury indicted Stevens for 27 charges. According to this February 19th agreement we obtained, she pleaded guilty to 3 charges, including murder, first-degree kidnapping, and child abuse. She agrees to a sentence of life without the possibility of parole. A judge will officially sentence her on May 7th.
This is one of those cases where you have to wonder what goes through somebody's mind that would cause them to inflict these kinds of injuries on a defenseless child.
And that's the big question here. Why? We've repeatedly asked Stevens for an interview here in jail. She keeps saying no. We'll see if she offers any type of explanation and apologizes at her sentencing. Reporting in downtown Las Vegas, Vanessa Murphy, 8 News Now.
Vanessa, thank you. Now, the 8 News Now.
I guess I just don't understand, what goes through the mind of pedophiles. I mean, I know that y'all have seen like the rise of a lot of these pedophiles since they started, the previous administration of our country was just letting criminals into our country unvetted, and they were coming down here and just doing a lot of horrendous things to kids. I'll say that without giving too many details. Y'all know the stories, but I just stopped asking, why do people with these sick mentalities do this to children who can't speak for themselves nor defend themselves? It just needs to be punished. And people like this do not deserve to be breathing air on in our earth atmosphere anymore. This woman should have been put to death, period. For her to be able to get off and like she shouldn't have had any say so to agree to a plea deal, but I know that's her right to do that legally. But people like this shouldn't exist in our world anymore. To that little boy, let me see if I can get his picture up here by himself. One of his more healthier pictures, like this one. Tuku, young prince, R.I.P. But y'all, let me know what you guys think about the story in the comments section. It's sad, but we have to share these stories because people act like this stuff don't exist. Stop sharing all of these things about celebrity news. Let's start making some real things that actually matter go viral. Like these stories. Thank you so much.